If you like to drive, but you also want to treat yourself to something, you know, a little nice, a little luxurious, and you don't want to spend a wad of cash, well, I think this Mazda 3 sedan is seeking you out.
The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter.
Yeah, a little like that. Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to this 2022 Mazda 3 sedan. This is two-wheel drive. This is not the turbo. This is not the hatchback. This is not all-wheel drive. Just the basic two-wheel drive sedan. Brand new Civic is out now, and man, it is really, really good. But this Mazda 3, even 4 years into its life cycle now, I would say is right up there with the new Civic and still competitive at the top of the class. Now, when I think of the Mazda 3, I'm just like you guys. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and when this came out in 2019, wow, it just seemed like three things I can recall from that time when these videos, when this car came out was, oh my gosh, they went to a torsion beam rear suspension. It needs a turbo. It was just whining. And then, of course, there was all the talk about, the interior, how nice this interior is. And then Mazda, had a lot of marketing mumbo jumbo about ergonomics and how the human acts with the car. So it was kind of far off my radar when I actually got to drive one not too long ago. When used car shopping, I was like, wow, this 186 horsepower, 4-cylinder, the way this drives, this car is really, really good. And this car has ended up being one of my favorites that I have driven over the past couple years. 2022 Mazda came out with this carbon trim level for the sedan. Man, this slots right between the preferred trim and the premium trim. The preferred trim is really, really good. However, you cannot get this beautiful PolyMetal Grey paint, and you cannot have the Bose stereo system, which, if you're aware of what the Mazda 3 is, you'll know that the Bose system is just highly regarded by anybody who listens to it. So yeah, they came out with this trim level. It's about $1,500-$1,600 more than the preferred trim, and you get some goodies that are really, really nice. You get this beautiful PolyMetal Grey. Again, this is one of the best paint colors out there in the industry. Mazda just nails this color. This sedan shape, everything about this car was made for the carbon trim level. It just absolutely pops. It's metallic. It goes from gray, it goes to a beautiful blue in different lighting conditions. And then in this carbon trim, you get all the black accents. You get these really, really classy 10-spoke wheels. If you're in this segment looking for a sedan, you're not going to find anything else out there that does not use creases and a lot of creases in the body style to get shadows. This car does shadows just fine, and there is absolutely no creases on it. This is a piece of, this is a work of art, if you ask me. Now, tire wise, this comes on 18-inch Bridgestones, and one thing about these tires is they're a little bit narrower than what you'll see on something like our GLI or even the Honda Civic in the sport trim. These are 215s versus 225s, but they are 45. So I think a little bit narrower tire, I think that helps with road noise, which when we get this out on the drive, this thing is really, really good. It is not the largest in its class. It really does remain a true compact, but this trunk is really, really good. It opens easy. You got a little, that's where your little button is right there, and you got a nice little grab handle, nice light trunk. You do have some 50-50 fold down seats. I'll go ahead and sprinkle some nits in this video, and one of my nits is the trunk with these releases. All these do is unlock it. You still have to walk around and put the seat down. I know that's a first world problem. The other nit in this trunk is they got the worst trunk light right up here. It's a incandescent bulb. It's dim, it's yellow, which is just contradictory with the lighting inside of the car. The lighting inside is all LED. It's beautiful, it's very elegant, it looks great. So the other thing is in the sedan with the Bose system, this is where you get your subwoofer and you get a couple other speakers up here. Whereas if you get the hatch, That subwoofer, I think it looks bigger in the hatch. It's down in the spare tire. Again, you do have a spare tire underneath. So pretty good trunk. Now let's talk about the other Achilles heel, and that's this back seat. This is my driving position right here. I have plenty of room, but I am not a 6-footer. A little bit less than that. I'm doing just fine. The other thing with the Mazda 3 back seat is they do not downgrade any materials back here versus what you have up front. Everything back here is great. The touch, the door sills, the handles, everything, and the seats are super duper comfortable. Everything else, headroom's fine. It's just leg room. If you're a big person and you drive and you carry people, adults, with you a lot, this car is going to be a little bit of a problem. But if that's not the case, you got small kids, you just use this as a commuter, you throw people in there for lunch every once in a while, this car is just fine for that. Very, very nice center console. Everything back here feels really, really good. Another nit back here, no reading lights. These doors are some of the easiest opening. I mean, they're just, it just makes getting in and out of this car so nice. This car sits up a little bit higher. I don't know, maybe it's just perception than like something like a Civic, and it's just so easy to get into. And then when you're in this passenger seat does not have any power controls. It doesn't go up or down. I'm going to talk about the seats on the test drive, but superbly comfortable seats. I'll just go ahead and say it. These are some of the best seats you're going to get. When you're in the passenger seat, this is not a penalty box. You have all the access that the driver does. The screen is tilted a little bit towards the driver. However, you don't need all you need to do is see it. You don't need to reach it or touch it, because you can help the driver navigating those controls over here. Decent sized glove box, very highly damped. Visors don't move, but you do have these little tabs that come out. And what makes this interior really, really nice is this white headliner. Makes it a little bit more airy and fresh in here. And you have all LED lighting in here, which looks really, really good. Sunglass holder, some map lights, reading lights. You also get some warnings up here regarding your backseat passengers, if they're back there, whether they're belted up or not. And then you get the standard small sunroof. Honda and Mazda seem to have perfected the small sunroof. So this is the 2.5. This is paired with the 6-speed transmission. What you're looking at here, 186 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque. The engine bay is one of the nicest as far as layout and how it looks. Pretty spacious. This is a big area for this. But yeah, this is a great engine. It likes to wind out. The only other 2.5 out there right now is that Toyota Camry and RAV4 2.5. Makes about 200 horsepower, less torque, much more grainier sounding, rougher sounding engine. This engine is a sweetheart. And if you notice down here with the gas pedal, it's hinged off the floor. So I know there's some other cars that do that. I don't know the advantage. Again, this carbon trim is pretty much a premium trim. It does not have heads-up display, paddle shifters, and like the swiveling headlights. But and that's the things you're like, you can really live without that. But it does have the Bose sound system. And I'm not going to get into the Bose sound system in this video. I'll just tell you that it is extraordinary. I'm going to contrast this Bose system to our long-term tester, our GLI's Beats system, in another video, but I will tell you it is one of the best that I've heard. The interior is just awesome. This is one of these interiors where you have to experience it to appreciate all the accolades that it's given. Every interaction with this interior is about keeping you stress-free. There's not a lot of bells and whistles and buttons all over the place, and it just, you know, one of the things with this video interior is reviewers will say that, hey, this is really getting close to premium class. And I would say some of the premium brands need to go back and look at the Mazda interiors and just see where they're starting to get, they're going off course now. This is classic, it's simple, and I think it's going to stand the, you know, this has already stood the test of time. This is still one of the most gorgeous interiors out there. Now the Honda Civic, you know, that interior is extensively improved. I still think this one has the nod. When you're sitting up front here, you have plenty of space. Visibility is great in the sedan. Again, you have a nice light airy cabin. Forward visibility out is superb. Okay, backup camera, not big. Pretty high resolution though. There is no guidelines, you know, steerable guidelines, but this is a pretty small car. I should also mention that when you put it in reverse, whatever mirror is selected will tilt down to show you the rear wheels. That's great if you're parking, you know, you're parallel parking and you do not want to curb your wheels. Let's see, other features. We have auto climate control here. Again, the climate control is outstanding. Every button you push, every interaction with this car is pleasant. The chimes are pleasant. You know, even the turn signals sound great. And then if you don't get this out for a really good lengthy test drive, you're not going to appreciate everything Mazda has done here to give you an overall driving experience that's really unique in the class. You're not going to find anything else that drives like this Mazda 3. All right, let's see, we have auto high beams that work great. We have auto sensing, rain sensing wipers that are great. We have adaptive cruise, we have heated seats, and we have this beautiful infotainment screen here. Now let's just talk about the infotainment really quick. Let's see, let's just all agree that this screen is in the right place. And once you put it in the right place for your eyesight, again, it lines up with the gauge cluster. You don't have to take your eyes too far off the road to see it. It's got beautiful blacks. It's really high resolution, and it has the landscape sort of, you know, this is placed in such a way, and it looks like, oh, it's not a tack on, it's integrated. And however, you know, because of where it's situated, you can't really reach it. So Mazda gives you this command wheel. I'll say a couple things about it. Like a lot of people say, if you spend some time with it, a few days, you learn the shortcuts around the buttons down here, and you appreciate that your hand is just sitting here most of the time with the volume knob and this wheel and these buttons, which you get to know. I find this system superb for me. Okay, you just got to give it some time. The other thing I will say is, if you use Apple CarPlay, you really have to go into settings and make sure that the apps that you use the most are at the top of the list. That way they show up across this top row. That way when you're scrolling across them, you don't have to go to that second screen. The Mazda menus really are laid out so simply, and they're not overly cluttered, that they're very easy to get around in. And if I go to the home screen and hit home again, I get my clock. I can have my Apple CarPlay going. I just hit that and I always have that clock. So I love that feature. The gauge cluster itself, again, if there's one of my favorite YouTubers out there, smaller YouTubers, is MG Reviews, and he actually did a comparison test between the Mazda 3 hatch and a Mini Cooper, and you say that's just a weird. No, it's not, because one thing the Mini Cooper and this Mazda 3 have in common is they're trying to give you a classic upscale motoring experience, and the gauge cluster in this Mazda 3 is classic and beautiful. It's easy on the eyes. I just love looking at it. I love analog gauges. It's not the video game thing that you got going on in most cars. Oh no, squirrel. This gauge cluster is not that configurable, so it's not configurable. You can just change a little bit of information on the center screen. This is a good screen if you're out on a highway or in traffic, because it'll show you who's in your blind spot. Or you can put it over to this one, which is just plain, or you can actually pull up a compass and your MPGs. Now, I think it would really be cool if Mazda swapped this, put the tachometer in the middle and put the speedometer over on the left. As far as the fuel gauges go, I think there's some confusion out there. The mechanical one on the right, that's quantity in your tank, and the digital one is your estimated range based on your current MPGs and how much is in the tank. And on the left side over here, you get either your average MPGs, or you can go into the menu and pull up your instantaneous MPGs and put that there. Okay, I'm gonna dig out here. That's an uphill dig. Hopefully you heard that. That is one smooth sounding 4-cylinder. Now, just buzzing around slow speed, it does have a little bit of a little bit of a sort of a electric shaver buzziness to it. You don't need the turbo, all right? You can have a lot of fun with this car. This car has plenty of power, and it's actually a quick car. This is right on par with the new Honda Civic. You have to go to the performance variants of everything else, like Kia, the Forte GT, or the Hyundai, you know, the Kona, the Elantra N line, to get better performance than this. And again, this is not a turbo. And the one thing that's really joyous about this engine is how linear the power delivery is. It's very smooth. Again, it's all about providing that upscale experience. Now, when the road gets twisty, yes, the steering is a little slow, but the steering is actually weighted really, really nice. I don't know, I've seen some reviewers out there that go, oh, the steering's light. No, it's not. This is almost on par with our GLI when it's in sports setting. And the combination of the road feel, the ride quality, along with the steering, gives you a very engaging experience as far as feeling the road. And I think that's what makes this such a fun car to drive. Is, yes, it's not the crispest handling car, but you can just throw it around and you just feel what the tires are doing on the road. And that's just something I don't even get that in our GLI. GLI is a sharp handler, let me tell you, but there's very little feedback anywhere in the car. You really don't know where you are as far as grip and what the tires are doing, but obviously it's very, very sharp. So what Mazda has done here is they've given you an overall driving experience. It's not about the numbers. It's really about the brakes, the steering, the engine, all working collectively together as one system. There's no standouts anywhere. It's just an overall very, very fun driving experience. This is more of a cruiser car. Ride quality is on the firm side. Without a doubt, this does not ride as good as the Honda Civic. But again, it's all part of that road feel, because bumps do not make noises. Mazda's done a really good job of isolating, you know, there's no bump noise that gets into the cabin, even with the rear torsion beam. Now, if you get on really, really bumpy pavement, like potholed city streets, this car will become a little unsorted because it's so stiff. The chassis is stiff, the ride is firm, and it'll get a little unsettled. However, it does not get noisy in the cabin from the ride quality. So this car is fun to toss around because it takes a little bit of work and concentration, but you are rewarded. Now, brake wise, again, Mazda's done some wizardry here on the brakes. There is no play in the brakes. Like the steering, there's no play in the steering either. But the brakes, hard braking, this car will not dip. It stays level. Really, really phenomenal as far as just overall feel of the brakes. Very strong. Again, nothing funny going on here. And that's, again, another beauty of this Mazda, is there's just nothing funny going on. It's just basic stuff that Mazda has tuned really, really well. Let's talk about seat comfort a little bit. The driver's seat here is fully powered. It's got lumbar support, but even the passenger seat is equally as comfortable without it. There's no pressure points in these seats. Probably been in these seats probably 8 hours one day, and it felt like the first hour. There wasn't one part of me that was feeling the seat anywhere, and that's pretty remarkable. I've never been in a seat like that. They're just really, really nice to sit in. All right, so let's head on over to the highway. Now, I should mention this center console, really nice storage here. There's 2 USBs in here. Both will hook up to the Apple CarPlay. I like to put the phone in there, just close this up, hook it up, and we're all good. I don't know, guys, I get a little annoyed with the obsession with 0 to 60. You know, everything's about the turbo when it comes to the Mazda lineup. Turbo, turbo, turbo. The turbo's awesome. It's also expensive. It's also thirsty. Yeah, I know. People say it's only a couple MPGs less than the regular one. And no, but you got to understand, this 3 with the non-turbo, this is not class-leading MPG. Something like a Honda Accord Kia K5 will beat this car in MPGs. However, the MPGs in here have been pretty good. I have a video out there on highway performance. Go check that out. This thing does really, really well. I've been averaging in mixed driving over the last couple weeks about 31 MPGs. So it's guilt-free MPGs. It's just not the 34, 35, 36 you're going to see in some of the other cars, specifically something like the Honda Civic. What this car does really, really well is two other things. Again, I already mentioned the smooth engine. The other thing it does really, really well is this 6-speed transmission is your partner. There is a sport mode that will change the shift points and liven up the throttle a little bit, and you also have a manual mode where you can shift it yourself. I haven't used it at all because I haven't felt the need to override what the transmission wants to do. It's only 6 gears, but it works with you. It does not hesitate to downshift. It does not fight you. It'll hold gears just fine if it knows you're trying to go up a hill or you're trying to accelerate. So here I am cruising along at 70, and I'm just going to mash it. I mean, that's instantaneous. You're not going to do better than that. So what this engine and transmission combination does, no, 0 to 60, no, it's not going to be less than 7. Okay, it's always going to be in that 7 to 8 range. However, 20 to 60, 60 to 80, 40 to 60, it's as good as anything out there because it is so responsive in the throttle. The transmission is always working with you and not against you, and that goes a long way over 0 to 60 times. The best thing about this car is it cruises really, really well, and it's really quiet in here. Even though the Civic has done a really good job of quieting down their interiors, this is still quieter than the new Civic. And yeah, just a really, really premium, refined driving experience, especially out here on the highway. Now, while we're driving along here, I'll go over 2 more nits. And again, this should not dissuade you from buying or not buying a car, but as beautiful as this interior is, and you've seen it in all the other reviews, Mazda has, in their wisdom, for some weird reason, chosen to put piano black all over this center console area. I don't get it. Everybody complains about it, and the crazy thing is, if you go down in a couple trim levels, you get a nice, beautiful matte black here. However, if you go up to these higher trim levels, Mazda thinks you need piano black. The other nit is there's a little piece of plexiglass over top the gauge cluster here, and it's, in certain lighting, you can see it's all scratched up already. I don't get why they put such a cheapy piece of plastic there. The other nit that I'll mention while we're driving along is the key fob. It's big and plastic and doesn't feel good. It doesn't do anything. However, please don't buy or not buy a car due to the key fob. This car does have remote start. You just can't do it on your key fob. You got to go through the app, and it works fine. I've tried it out on the app. However, it's free for the first few years of owning the car, and then they say you got to pay for it. Come on, just put a remote start on the key fob. Okay, so final thoughts on this Mazda 3. Look, if you need something that looks really elegant, super duper comfortable, and fun to drive, Mazda, I think this carbon trim level sedan, it's kind of like the sweet spot of features and just driving performance and guilt-free fuel economy. Now, I just, again, love these doors, so easy to open. Again, I think it's between the Civic and this Mazda 3. What Mazda has given you here, all their marketing hype is actually, I found it to be pretty true. They've given you the complete driving experience. Everything about the car is designed to work with everything else. The brakes work with the steering works with the engine. It's all about the driving experience. This makes me want to go for a drive, and that's always the question I ask of any car that I drive. Do I want to go out and take a drive? And in this Mazda 3, I have found, when it's sitting out there and we need to go to the store, I'm like, I'll take the 3. That's how much I have enjoyed this car. If you need room in your back seat and you want the best fuel economy, yes, the Civic is going to beat this, but I think this beats it as far as style. It's great to look at, and I think it does offer a little bit better driving experience with that 6-speed transmission and that naturally aspirated engine. If you own one of these or thinking about buying one, you have any questions, I've spent 2 weeks in this car. It really doesn't have any shortcomings. Again, I pointed out some of those nits, but yeah, drop us a question or comment below. Would love to hear from you. So again, thanks for coming along with us today, and have a great day, morning or evening, wherever you are. I'm completely, what the heck did I do? All right, all wound up there.